Most people think the difference between rich and poor is how much money someone has. That's the wrong question entirely. The real difference shows up in what happens inside someone's head the moment $100 lands in their account. Same amount, same number. Two completely different internal conversations. And that gap, that invisible mental gap, compounds over years in ways most people never trace back to the source. Someone living paycheck to paycheck sees $100 and feels one thing first. Relief. Relief that the phone bill clears. Relief that the gas tank gets filled without checking the balance twice. That reaction isn't weakness, it's what financial pressure does to a brain over time. When money is always scarce, your mind is wired to spend it before something takes it. Economists actually have a term for this, scarcity mindset, and it's been studied in detail. When you're constantly close to zero, your cognitive bandwidth narrows around immediate survival. Not laziness, not stupidity, just the math of stress running in the background every single day. Now take someone who isn't in that pressure zone. They see $100, and the first question isn't, what do I owe? It's, where does this go? That one-word difference, owe versus go, is quietly enormous. One frame is defensive, the other is directional, one is reacting to the past, the other is organizing the future. And no, this isn't about being positive. It's about what your current financial reality allows your brain to think. Here's where the mindset conversation usually gets dishonest. Most YouTube videos will tell you that poor people spend and rich people invest. Technically true, practically useless. Because that framing skips the part where investing requires a margin, money left over after real expenses are covered. If your $100 disappears into rent, groceries, a copay, and a late fee, there is no margin. The mindset shift people talk about can't fully arrive until the cash flow situation creates at least some breathing room. But here's what's also true, and this part matters. Two people with identical incomes, identical bills, can still end up in very different financial positions in 5 years. And the difference often traces back to small, repeated decisions that don't feel like decisions at all. That's the part of the mindset conversation that's actually worth having. Someone conditioned to see money as temporary will spend $100 in a way that makes it disappear quickly. Not recklessly, not irresponsibly, just without any of it sticking. 20 on a delivery app, 30 on something that was on sale, 15 on a subscription they forgot about. What's left doesn't feel worth doing anything with, so it floats until it's gone too. This isn't a moral failure, it's a pattern. And patterns can be interrupted. Someone who's been around money longer, or who had it modeled differently, runs a different internal script. Even with $100, they're asking, does this need to move somewhere, or is it already covered? Not because they're more disciplined as a person, because they have a framework their brain can run automatically. The poor mindset often treats money like water, something that flows in and flows out. The wealthier mindset, over time, starts treating money more like inventory. Tracked, assigned, deliberate. And inventory thinking doesn't require being rich. It just requires building the habit before the money is big. That's the part the gurus skip. They tell you to think like a millionaire, but they don't show you the slow, boring work that actually builds the wiring. A $100 bill sitting on a table means something different depending on your relationship with money over time. For one person, it represents a problem getting solved, a gap getting closed. For another, it represents a choice getting made, a direction being picked. Neither of those people is morally superior, but one of them is building something, and one isn't. The thing about $100 is that it's small enough to feel insignificant, but large enough to reveal a pattern. Watch what someone does with a small amount and you'll understand what they'll do with a large one. That's not a rule, but it's close enough to be worth paying attention to. Someone who consistently assigns even small money to a purpose, savings, debt paydown, anything deliberate, is building a reflex. And reflexes built at $100 scale up when the numbers get bigger. The opposite is also true. Someone who consistently lets small amounts dissolve will find that larger amounts dissolve just as quietly, just faster. Lottery winners who go broke aren't unlucky. They had $100 habits running on $1 million income. That's not a metaphor. That's a documented financial pattern that plays out more often than people expect. Now, there's a version of this conversation that gets preachy fast. So let's stay grounded. Not everyone's $100 situation is the same. Cost of living varies. Debt loads vary. Life circumstances vary enormously. Someone supporting a household on a single income in an expensive city is not in the same position as someone with low fixed costs. The mindset shift has limits when the structural gap is too wide. That's real and worth saying plainly. But within whatever situation you're actually in, there's usually a small margin that exists and goes unmanaged. Not because you're careless, because no one ever showed you that even $10 can be pointed somewhere intentional. Wealthy households, on average, don't save because they earn more. Research consistently shows they earn more partly because they saved first. The direction of causality matters. Saving isn't the reward at the end. For a lot of people, it's the mechanism at the beginning. Even at small scale, even at amounts that feel embarrassing to put into a savings account. The rich mindset around $100 often includes one more thing that rarely gets mentioned. They're not emotionally attached to the 100. They're attached to what the 100 becomes over time. That emotional detachment from the present dollar and attachment to the future dollar, that's the real cognitive gap. Poor money thinking tends to be present tense. This bill, this problem, this week. Wealthier money thinking tends to run in longer time frames. This year, this decade. What does this pattern become? Neither framing is natural. Both are learned, which means the framing you're running right now isn't fixed. It's just the one that got installed first. There's also a specific mistake that smart, educated people make around this topic. They understand the theory completely. Invest early, automate savings, avoid lifestyle inflation, and then don't do it because understanding a concept and building a financial behavior around it are two entirely different things. Knowing that compound interest works doesn't mean you feel it. You have to see it move before the brain believes it. That's why starting small actually matters. Not because small amounts change your net worth fast, because small amounts change what your brain believes is possible for you specifically. $10 moved to savings this week becomes proof of concept, not wealth, just proof. And proof, repeated enough times, quietly rewires the story you tell yourself about what kind of person you are financially. So the practical reset here isn't to think like a millionaire. It's to pick one thing, one deliberate decision, the next time any amount of money hits your account. Not a budget overhaul, not a new app, just one assigned dollar amount going somewhere intentional. That's it. That's where the gap starts closing. Not with motivation, with one repeated decision. The question worth sitting with is this. When money arrives, what's the very first thought that shows up? Because that thought, automatic, instant, unexamined, is the mindset you're actually running, not the one you think you have.